Hey, everybody. I would like to talk about Kamala Harris's birth chart today. It's about mid-August of 2024. It's been a few weeks since Joe Biden announced that he was dropping out of the presidential race and suggesting that we all accept Kamala Harris as a candidate for the 2024 election for president of the United States. So we have good birth data for Kamala Harris. I'm showing her birth chart in a couple of different formats here. So this is for the technical people out there. Her birth date and time is October 20th, 1964 at 21:28 in Oakland, California. So it's interesting. I really have just noticed that she was born a very short time before the 1964 presidential election. And what I have noticed since 2020, it came to my attention that the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that we had in Capricorn in 2020 was similar to the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Capricorn that we had in 1960. So in 1960, there was a presidential election, and it was President Kennedy. John Kennedy was elected in 1960, and he had defeated the seated Republican President Eisenhower. So we had a Republican, and then in 1960, a Democrat was elected. So on that basis, I thought in 2020, oh, well, maybe we'll have a Democrat come in after a Republican, and that is indeed what happened. So in the 1964 election, we had JFK was gone by that time. He had been assassinated. And so the incumbent Democrat did get elected in 1964. It wasn't the one that was elected in 1960, but it was still the incumbent Democrat that got in 1964. So maybe the same thing will happen in 2024. But I just noticed that, wow, Kamala Harris was born just before that 1964 election. How fascinating, just a couple of weeks before that. So she was even born in the tide of that excitement just after JFK had passed and coming into the 64 election. So as you can see, she has got, and I'll point here, she's got the Gemini as the ascendant sign. You can see that she has Rahu in the ascendant, and she's currently in her Rahu major period, which you can see on the right side of the right column. I have major, minor, and subminor periods showing right now, really kind of centered on right now. So when she was elected vice president, she had just entered her Rahu major, Mercury minor period. And she does have some strength with Mercury. It's her first house ruler. It's the fourth house ruler placed in the fifth house, which is a powerful combination, a Raj Yoga, as we say. So she has that going for her. So Mercury is very strong in her chart. It's a big Raj Yoga. And Mercury saw her elected as vice president, first woman vice president. Amazing. So when we're looking at jobs and destiny and that kind of thing for people, we really like to look at the 9th house and 10th house of the chart. So for Kamala Harris, the 9th house, you see Saturn is deposited there. It's the sign of Aquarius fills up her 9th house. Aquarius has 2 planets that rule it in Vedic astrology. So Saturn and Rahu are both rulers of Aquarius. And she has Saturn itself placed there in her 9th house. So we kind of see Rahu as being more of the 9th house ruler placed in the first house. That is also a powerful combination. Having the 9th house ruler placed in the first house is another Raj Yoga. So it's not surprising that she's really risen during her Rahu period. So the Saturn itself being in the 9th house is quite powerful as well. And Aquarius itself, as a ninth house sign, it really, I think, shows her dedication to the people. I think of Aquarius as being a very humanitarian sign, and I see her path in life as wanting to be very active in promoting human beings and diversity and equality for all. Rahu being in her first house really shows that she has become a figurehead for all of the people. So I think that's really her path and her destiny. And she's in her Rahu period, and now's her time. So that's exciting. So when we're talking about jobs, we look at the 10th house, the big career house. And her 10th house has nothing. There's no planets placed there. But Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces, which fills up her 10th house. And then we see that Jupiter has been deposited in the sign of Taurus in the 12th house, which is an interesting thing. You might think, oh, wow, the 10th house ruler in the 12th house, that might mean she doesn't really have a powerful job, she has a job internationally. But I do want to point out the underlines under SA, which stands for Saturn, and JP, which stands for Jupiter. That means they're both retrograde. When a planet is retrograde, it's difficult to know exactly how that planet's going to act. It gives us a little bit of a wild card feeling. So it could be that Jupiter in the 12th house really comes out thinking like he's fighting for the people. Sometimes we think a retrograde planet is acting like it's in the opposite sign from where it is. And so if that was the case, we would be seeing Kamala Harris with a Jupiter in Scorpio in the 6th house, which really tracks for a legal job. She did start out as a prosecutor, so that also tracks. And Jupiter being retrograde, I think even shows her taking space as a woman in this political arena that, she's breaking glass ceilings right now. So interesting. So let's talk more about Rahu and what's happening in the moment here. I'm going to show you the chart of Washington, D.C. on Election Day. So November 5th, 2024 sees Jupiter retrograde in Taurus. That looks familiar. It's just like Kamala Harris's chart, isn't it? She was born with Jupiter in Taurus. She was also born with Saturn in Aquarius, which will also be the case during Election Day. And Rahu, as you can see, is up in Pisces, and that is her 10th house. We know that. So even though her Jupiter may fool us into thinking, oh, she's going to lose because it's in the 12th house, she has Rahu transiting over her 10th house, and she is in the Rahu period. So I feel like the chart of the moment, this is 6 a.m. Washington, D.C. on Election Day. So it does seem like the planets are lined up to support her. Essentially, when we're looking at who's going to win a thing, winning comes in the 9th house. So her 9th house ruler is Saturn. The other one is Rahu. So she's got two 9th house rulers. One of them is in its own sign and transiting her own 9th house. The other one is transiting her 10th house. That looks pretty good for winning. We can do a Donald Trump chart another day, but his 9th house ruler is Mars and will be transiting his 12th house, which looks like loss. So we'll see. Things will get, I'm not really trying to do a prediction. I'm just really looking at her chart. But I'm giving you an idea of what the transits look like at the time that she's going to be Election Day. So let me switch back to her chart. So I want to bring your attention to her dashas, which is her planetary periods. So look to the right of the screen. There's 3 columns there. Rahu, it shows that it's Rahu major period. You notice that she got elected during Rahu Mercury, just right at the beginning of her Mercury period. Then she's run through her job as vice president in Rahu Mercury and then Rahu Ketu and Rahu Venus, right at the beginning of Rahu Venus, Biden announces he's stepping down. So Rahu Venus. And you'll see that election day for her will happen on Rahu Venus moon. Okay. Look down at the bottom of this page and the graph with the red lines, Shadbal. These are the strength of planets. The second one is the moon strength. It's her strongest planet. And it will be transiting through her own 7th house on the day of the election. The moon can show public opinion as well. So it's kind of like, oh, look, the public sees you. So that could mean that she has a good day on election day. The other thing is Venus. She's in Rahu Venus, and Venus ends up becoming quite powerful for her, actually. It is the ruler of her 12th house and 5th house. The 12th house holds Jupiter, which is her 10th house ruler, showing that Venus does support her work. And Venus rules her 5th house. The 5th house is the house of, among other things, children, followers, clients, students. So I would say constituents. We could put that in that bin as well. So her 5th house ruler is Venus. It's placed in Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun. The sun ends up sitting in Libra, which is debilitated. We don't like that. We don't like when the sun is sitting in Libra. It's a debilitation. However, the fact that Venus is sitting in sun sign and sun is sitting in Venus's sign, that makes a parivartan, or a exchange of signs, which makes both of those planets extremely powerful. It almost fixes the debilitation of Venus. I'm sorry, of the sun. So both Sun and Venus are very powerful in her chart, and Mercury itself, being the 1st house ruler and 4th house ruler sitting in the 5th house, is another Raj Yoga. So she was elected vice president during Rahu Mercury, and Venus looks equally nice for her for that election day and for this time in her life. And she's going to be in Rahu Venus moon during that election. So we'll see. It looks very good for Kamala Harris. Her chart is, not perfect, as none of ours are, but it does seem like her time. And for that, we will see. And I'm just going to end here. Maybe we'll go deeper next time. If I get response, maybe we'll do a Donald Trump look as well. So thanks for watching. And if you have questions, put them down there in the comments. I haven't done YouTubes for a while, you guys, and I'm trying to get fired up again. So let's go. Talk to you soon.